Chairperson.
There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote 31. Small Business Development Appropriation Bill.
And I invite the Honorable the Minister of Small Business Development.
Honorable Chairperson, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Deputy Minister Zoleka Kapa in particular, Chairperson of our Portfolio Committee, Mme Violet Siweya, members of the Portfolio Committee of Small Business Development, honorable members of the House, officials from the department, members of the board of our agencies, SID and CIFA, entrepreneurs present, ladies and gentlemen, Ndimacherun. Imagine being a young South African in the Delft or any other area of our country. You are very entrepreneurial and you approach your own government with a business concept for support. In this case, it is the Braai Cafe with franchising of potential and implemented through the youth-owned cooperatives. These young people of the Delft and the other Cape Flats areas knocked on the government's doors and the NYDA responded. Other partners, including my department, responded and made undertakings, but the implementation was slower than the snail mail. It took almost 5 years for the members of the Braai Cafe Cooperative to almost realize their vision. We failed them. The turnaround time for the Braai Cafes and other delayed projects is not what we are about. We have committed that within 100 days from today, the Braai Cafes will be operational across the Cape Flats with a vision to make them the first government-supported franchise outfit in our term of office. In his State of the Nation address, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa committed the 6th administration to move speedily with supporting small businesses to be the biggest contributors to economic growth and thereby generating much-needed job opportunities. This confidence by the President is informed by the fact that most of the developed countries are driven by small businesses. For example, the OECD's SMME and Entrepreneurship Outlook of 2019 assessed that SMMEs account for about 60% of employment and between 50 and 60% of value added and are the main drivers of productivity in many regions and cities. The report further points out that as predominant forms of business and employment, small and medium enterprises are key actors of building more inclusive and sustainable growth, increasing economic resilience, and improving social cohesion. Even when the OECD is positive in its outlook of SMMEs and entrepreneurship, the descriptions of the challenges facing SMMEs in developed countries is as if they are describing the challenges of SMMEs in South Africa. They describe small firms as facing long-standing size-related barriers in dealing with stringent business conditions or access to strategic resources. Chairperson, our work is cut out for us. We, however, are ready to ensure that SMMEs and cooperatives take their rightful place in growing South Africa for both inclusive and sustainable economy. We are bold in this commitment because we are from the generation that lived through our resolve of freedom or death victory is certain and want to pay forward to the generation of economic freedom in our lifetime. Ours is the pursuit of economic transformation and job creation. So our work in this term of office will be directed to ensuring that SMMEs and cooperatives contribute to the two goals that amongst the ones that were mentioned by the President. One is our economy growing at a much faster rate than our population and 2 million young people being in employment over the next 10 years. We are fully aware that to achieve this, SMMEs must have access to strategic resources and facilities and platforms, among others, that will enable them to nurture their innovative ideas. Our focus on improved access to finance includes initiatives to make SMME finance more affordable. The plan is to make the cost of money less expensive, starting with the cost of CFA financing. In this regard, the President announced during his response to the SONA debate that will introduce a blended financing model. This model will be introduced over the next 3 years, commencing in the current financial year. A blended finance model involves the mixing of grants and loans with the aim to lower cost of capital for borrowers, increase access, and improve the chances of the survival and sustainability, especially for early stage enterprises that require lower gearing and patient capital. By adopting the blended financing model, CIFA will strengthen SMME's capital structure and consequently increase their chances of sustainability. CIFA will collaborate with the Department of Small Business Development, and other government entities and the private sector in utilizing the grant incentive offerings to develop a blended funding model that will direct benefit SMMEs across the funding facilities in the MTF period. CIFA will ensure the delivery of the first blended finance model to SMMEs through the Small Business and Innovation Fund, commencing in the 2019-2020 financial year. Qualifying startups, innovators, and SMMEs will be able to access the match grant funding with a repayable CIFA loan. The grant portion will be up to a maximum of 2.5 million rand per enterprises. The first beneficiaries of the blended funding model will be at least 100,000, and I must repeat, 100,000 young entrepreneurs who will be funded through the Small Business and Innovation Fund over in the 2019-2020 financial year. The budget for the Small Business and Innovation Fund in the current financial year is over R1 billion. The beneficiaries will be drawn from all our provinces, and in other areas will prioritize beneficiaries from townships and rural areas, in particular in the Western Cape and Gauteng. The process of entrepreneurs and innovators and SMMEs to access this funding will be announced in the first week of August, but at a minimum, they must have the potential to create a minimum of 10 jobs. It will translate to almost 1 million jobs over the period. This is in line with our commitment to enable a generation of job creators, as young people must take their rightful place in our economy. Honorable members, over the years, SIDA has established incubators across the country, albeit with an urban bias, and other incubation work has been directed by private sector. We are aware that alone in this regard, government will not have sufficient resources to act alone in this regard. And we are going to work to reorientate SIDA to be the lead incubator of South Africa, to coordinate, consolidate, and regulate the work of incubators. SIDA will adopt a standard incubator model based on best practice that will be a minimum framework for incubation in South Africa. SIDA will register incubators so that where necessary, the work can be redirected for maximum impact in line with the economic priorities of our country. Our aim is to ensure that there are accepted indicators for successful SMME support in our country. Therefore, within the next 6 months, we'll adopt an SMME business index that will track the economic health of SMMEs. We will do this so that we can measure the impact of various SMME support programs and intervention, be they by government or the private sector. In the current conditions, SMMEs are the cornerstone of our economy, and therefore our support programs can no longer be left to their own devices. In the meantime, SIDA will increase the incubation network in rural areas and townships as part of government commitment to grow rural and township enterprises. For this purpose, SIDA will establish an additional 8 incubation centers in the rural and underserviced provinces of Free State, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Northern Cape, and Northwest, and the townships of Gauteng and Western Cape. This is our response to the directive of our president during the SONA, when he committed that we are going to roll out small business incubation centers to provide youth-driven startups with financial and technical advice as they begin their journeys. Our commitment to increase incubation period to a maximum of 5 years remain. We are also committed to optimize the utilization of already existing facilities, not only to expand our reach, but to increase the return on government's investment. In the previous financial years, we established 13 centers for entrepreneurship and rapid incubation in TVET colleges through our partnership with the Department of Higher Education, Training, Science and Technology. In the current financial year, these centers will be upgraded to full incubators in order to provide business incubation services for enterprise in black townships and rural areas where they are located. The upgrade of these centers into full incubators will benefit small businesses and startups that are adjacent to the TVET colleges. An additional 9 centers will be established and be as full incubators in all our provinces. We'll also coordinate with the private sector for the establishment of incubators in underserviced areas as we ensure improved support to rural and township enterprises. Honorable members, the President announced special interventions to bring economic development in local areas. We are happy to announce a partnership with Vodacom on the rollout of digital hubs. This partnership piggybacks on the already existing partnership between Vodacom and the Department of Basic Education for the establishment of youth centers using teacher training colleges. The plan is to expand the youth centers to become digital hubs where our young and rural enterprise and township-based entrepreneurs have access to technology platforms and resources for ideation, experimentation, testing, and end-user computing. DBN and Vodacom have already converted 92 youth centers out of the 140 teacher training colleges. This partnership would therefore give us scale and speed in the rollout of the digital hubs. To cover the areas where there are no former teacher training colleges, we have planned for establishment of at least 4 digital hubs for geographic inclusivity. Chairperson, in order to improve coordination and traceability of support provided to SMMEs and cooperatives, we will shortly commence a process of establishing SMME and cooperative database categorized by sector, geographic location, size, and product or service. For we are not only going to be definitive about the number of SMMEs and cooperatives in our country, we are going to ensure effective and traceable support as we strive for business sustainability. We will work with National Treasury to ensure the communication of this database to already existing critical databases and business systems of government. We are not just about scaled-up support to SMMEs, but it must be integrated and seamless. We believe that an environment that enables SMMEs to do business with ease is a precondition for a successful economy. To enable the seamless access to support, we plan to establish a one-stop SMME platform for businesses to access both financial and non-financial support. The one-stop SMME support platform will include walk-in option, online access, and call center access. The platform will be linked to SMME database as we firmly believe on our traceability of the assistance. Our vision is a vision wherein an SMME that is assisted to develop a business proposal by SEDA will exit with funding from either CIFA, NEF, Land Bank, and even the IDC at a minimum. To enable this, within the 2019-2020 financial year, SEDA will adopt business templates that are currently used by NEF as we coordinate the development of common templates with the IDC, Land Bank, and NEF. Our view is that the adoption of common templates for funding application by DFIs will improve access to funding and lessen the burden of doing business by SMMEs. The intention is to lobby private banks to also adopt the same templates. We also believe that with these templates, when these templates are known and available, DFIs will improve the turnaround time in the approval of funding applications. We are also going to work with SALGA to make sure that we develop and review generic bylaws to create a conducive environment for SMMEs and informal traders to conduct their businesses in municipalities. Our view is that economic spaces, streets are economic spaces. We subscribe firmly to the fact that public spaces are assets for livelihoods of the poor and resources for the urban economy. We're also going to engage National Treasury on the cost of tender documents that have become prohibitive and the requirement for compulsory briefing sessions that are even if it's a tender for toilet papers, have become an elimination factor for small businesses. We will also table the Service Ombudsman Service Bill to provide a less costly dispute resolution mechanism.
Honorable Minister. Just a minute. I would like to address our honorable guests that they should not participate with members on the floor by clapping hands. All you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is to smile and chuckle a little, but without having to clap your hands. Otherwise, you are most welcome. Thank you. You can continue.
Thank you. In addition to the bylaws for favorable conditions for SMMEs and informal business, we'll commence a process of registering informal businesses so that we can offer them coordinated support. Honorable members, of late, South Africa has taken the cooperatives model of doing business for granted, and as a result, the framework for establishing cooperatives is very weak and susceptible to abuse. To borrow from my Deputy Minister, Honorable Kapa, today you may deal with a cooperative, and tomorrow the same outfit is an NPO, depending on where the grant is available. For us, cooperatives are businesses, and we're going to support them as businesses. The Deputy Minister will soon announce tightened mechanism for registration of cooperatives. Fundamental is that the cooperatives must not be forced collaboration of people, in particular women and other vulnerable groups. To facilitate the change in the perspective, the funding model for cooperatives will be changed to blended financing model, as we have articulated it earlier. We have lived with examples of very successful cooperatives such as the NTK, the GWK, and others. It is those models we seek to replicate. We are for cooperative sense of purpose. We are for cooperative success. Access to markets is another key determinant to the success of any business. Therefore, we have a non-negotiable responsibility to ensure that products and services for our SMMEs and cooperatives have markets. In this regard, we are going to establish trade markets for our SMMEs and cooperatives. In this financial year, we'll at least establish 4 trade markets in Enhlangenzeni in Mpumalanga, Musina in Limpopo in the SCZ, Eastern Cape, Mthatha Zonke market in the Eastern Cape in the KSD district, and Mahikeng in the Ngakamutira district. As part of our government's program, to open access to markets for SMMEs, we'll finalize agreements with big business on their SME procurement spend and their value chain. And the work in this regard is very promising. They are coming to the party. Government, as the largest consumer of goods and services, must put its money where its mouth is. With the guidance of the Deputy President, we will finalize the list of goods and services that the SMMEs or cooperative system will provide to government as a minimum. Chairperson, our budget is based on a strong CEDA and CIFA as our implementing agents, and the department that is able to coordinate and direct SMME and cooperative support, work of not only to the 2 agencies and government, but across all sectors of our country. The department will finalize our structure for approval within the 3rd quarter of the current financial year and fill strategic vacancies of the approved structure. This financial year will be used for both concluding the outstanding work from the 5th administration and commence with the implementation of the 6th administration priorities. The board of CEDA has just started their 3-year term of office, and they are going to execute knowing the agency that the 6th administration priorities are. We have full confidence in them and will give them our full support. The term of office of the board of CIFA is coming to an end. We'll embark in a process of establishing a new board. However, CIFA faces serious challenges that are in their own nature, not insurmountable. Due to CIFA's mandate and target market, the institution is exposed to high risk as capital security is often not available from its clients. It has become apparent that CIFA's access to cash flows of the SMMEs and cooperatives is critical if we are to secure repayments from those entities that the CIFA funds. This can be possible through session agreements. At present, CETA is struggling to obtain session agreements with different spheres of government due to provisions with the National Treasury. In this regard, we have started engaging with the National Treasury so that CIFA can be allowed to have session agreements. But the prohibition of session agreements for CIFA has indirectly pointed out to the fact that SMMEs predominantly rely on government for business and funding. The private sector is not coming to the party, but we tell you, zizojika izinto. The non-payment of SMMEs and cooperatives by government is not only destroying the sector, but is a major contributor to the sustainability of DFIs. Therefore, their non-payment is not only a travesty of justice, but a threat to the economic well-being of our country. The Deputy Minister will soon announce concrete measures to address the non-payment of SMMEs. Honorable members, I'm honored to table my first budget vote, 31, on small business development to this House for your consideration and approval. The Department of Small Business Development has been allocated 8.15 billion rand over the MTEF, spread as follows: 2019-2020, 2.5 billion, 2020-21, 2.7 billion, 2021-22, 2.86 billion. The department's budget for the allocation of 2019 financial year of 2.57 billion is allocated as follows: transfers and subsidies consume 90.6% or 2.3 billion, whilst operations are provided at 9.4% or 242 million. of allocated resources. The 203 billion of transfers and subsidies provide for CEDA's allocation of 864.8 million, which is 37% of the transfers and subsidies. CIFA's allocation of 1 billion, which is 43% of transfers and subsidies. The department administers the remaining 458 million through the 4 incentive schemes plus 1 new program that we're introducing of the blended finance facility. The 4 incentives are the Black Supply Development Program, Cooperative Incentive Scheme, Craft Customized Sector Program, the National Information Business Upliftment. The department 242 million operational budget provides for compensation of employees at 151.8 billion at 5.9%, goods and services 3.4 billion at 86%, capital expenditure of 4.3 billion at 0.02%. Chairperson, I thought it would be important to highlight the fact that 90.6% of our budget is allocated to serving SMEs and cooperatives and 9.4% to operational expenditures. Out of the CIFA's total budget allocation, an amount of 241 does not form part of the budget vote 31 as yet. It is transferred through the budget vote on economic development as CIFA is a subsidiary of the IDC. Out of the budget of 867 billion allocated to CEDA, 152 million will go to CEDA Technology Program, 57 to the Enterprise Incubation Program, 35 million to the Gazellas Program, and 607 million to the agency to make sure it has presence, including the incubators in our provinces. We have defined the potential in us as that of a potato. From a potato, we can have French fries, mash, wedges, chips, casserole, salad, nachichuru. These small businesses and cooperatives are the potato of our country's economy, from which much is possible. I'd like to thank the South Africans from all walks of life, including the captains of industries, the SMME and cooperative ecosystem and entrepreneurs, whom since my appointment have offered valuable suggestions and support as I start this thing. Of course, buying local is not a campaign, but it is a way of life. I would like to thank AKA Emporium at 27 Boxes in Melville, Johannesburg, for dressing me today, and the 26-year-old restaurateur Emmanuel of Have Wings at 27 Boxes, who fed us during our site visit last week. We are confident our government will walk the journey with him and any other entrepreneurs as they realize their budget vision. Chairperson and honorable members, I present the 2019-2020 budget vote 31 on small business development for your approval. Ndoribo.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Siwela, you're invited to the podium.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister of Small Business Development, Minister Kumbuzo, Deputy Minister of Small Business Development, Meno Kuzola Kapa, members of the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, Chairperson of CEDA and CIFA, Chief Executive Officers from both entities, Acting Director General Mr. Lindokuhle Mkumana, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Abshen. The ANC support budget vote 31 of the Department of Small Business Development. The budget vote debate for the Department of Small Business Development is taking place just 6 days before we celebrate 101 birthday of our icon, Isitwalande Siaparangwe, President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Madiba would have turned 101 in 6 days had he been alive. Long live the legacy of Nelson Mandela, long live. In November 1997, South Africa had the privilege of hosting the second conference on small business in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. In his opening address to the conference, President Mandela reminded the delegates about the challenges faced by small businesses, which were identified in the first conference in Tunisia. Madiba said, open quote, in order to develop small, medium, and micro enterprises in South Africa, we need to take into account inherited obstacles. This includes low level of education and training, barriers to markets, inaccessible finance, and lack of support institution, close quote. Madiba did not stop there. He went further to suggest measures to address the challenges as he outlined them. He said that, open quote, the broad shoulders of local authorities must bear their responsibilities for providing education and training, simplifying tender procedures, promoting access to finance through the government's national programs of action, framing bylaws that are fair and conducive to the prosperity of informal and formal businesses. Natsaka, Honorable Minister, hiku masuvula ku mita tirhisana na SALGA ka timhaka ta ma bylaws. Hiku akuna tiko leri nga banana country ri nga riki na milawu. Swa hina hi ri committee ha swi amukela sweswo swi ta endla leswaku ntirho wa n'wina wu endleka hi ku olova. A lot has been done by our government in line with what Madiba has directed in the Durban conference. However, we are aware that there are some challenges that are faced by our SMMEs and cooperatives. As we emerge from the 6th national general elections, we were given renewed mandate by South Africans to take this country onto a higher trajectory as the ANC. We are not taking this responsibility lightly. We greatly value your trust and confidence you have shown in us. And most importantly, we are taking heed from our good advisors you made during the 5th Parliament. Indeed, we listened. Your counselors and your suggestion will not doubt unleash and propel the small enterprises and cooperative movement. On that note, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the outgoing portfolio committee under the stewardship of Mayor Ruth Bengu. Your hard work and dedication has not gone unnoticed. It has given us a solid groundwork to build on. The agenda of transforming the economy is one of the 7 priorities identified by the President in his State of the Nation address on the 20th of June 2019. The President also indicated that our economy is not growing and that not enough jobs are being created. Hi hoyozela timhaka ta 100,000 ya vantshwa lava va nga ta pfuleriwa etindlela a cancer eka ka minister na department ya n'wina. The President was in incense calling on all of us to play a part in growing our economy to create jobs. It is therefore the responsibility of the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development to ensure that in growing the economy, we should support cooperatives and small businesses, both financially and non-financially. For her part, the Minister of Small Business Development emphasized the point that small businesses, if sufficiently supported, can play a vital role in economic development and inclusion as the barriers of entry are limited. This will be addressed, among other things, as the Minister said, through the establishment of product-specific markets where SMMEs and cooperatives will trade their products. Hikumhaka ya kutika emashavisele. Ha swi vona swa endleka, mara mabindzu lama makulu ma hundzuka tixaka, ma mintetela swibindzwana leswintsongo. Se loko ko va na mhaka ya ku maketisa, ku ti-products leti va ti endlaka a va dindiriki na tona, ku na lomu ti yisiwaka kona. Hi ta vula ku ri hi le ku create-eni ka mitirho, hi ta vula ku ri hi le ku kuriseni ka swa ximali swa xiikhonomi. According to the International Labour Organization, there is enough evidence to show that small, micro, and medium enterprises and cooperatives are major job creation engineers. Se hi nga pfalela njhani minister hi nga approve budget leyi lavaka ku pfuneta tinjini leti nga ta create mitirho. Hi tlhela hi hoyozela na mhaka ku entrepreneur yin'wana ni yin'wanyana i fanele a va na capacity ya ku qacha 10 ya vanhu. Sweswo swi ta endla ku mitirho yi qacheka. Vuk'uzenzele ri xile. The democratic government has been working hard to redress the legacy of apartheid, which deliberately and systematically excluded black people from owning and developing their businesses and land. Here misava ya hina ha yi lava. The democratic government inherited apartheid regime, racial skewed and inadequate market institution and infrastructure to support emerging producers. In addition, apartheid left a widespread lack of experience in starting and running enterprises. To overcome these legacy issues and create an inclusive economy where citizens have an equal opportunity to participate in the economic growth of this country, government developed a white paper on national strategy for the development and promotion of small businesses. Progress has been made, however, developed and developing economics have not recovered fully from the global economic crisis. The South African economy has also been struggling to create jobs and grow their economies, and this has had a negative impact on the development of small business and cooperatives. The National Development Plan has set a target that requires the country to push forward despite the challenges. So it's akisa leswi mi nga swi veketela namuntlha swi hi nyika hope, swi hi nyika ku tshemba leraku swi vula ku ri swilo swi ta endleka. SIDA na SIFA a ti vi coordinated properly. Because swi dida vanhu va hina, more especially loko hi cheka ka research ya hina hi kuma ku SIFA aka ti rural areas a va yi tivi. Se hi amukela ti-office leti ti nga ta tumbuluxiwa ka ti-district leti mi nga ti vula ka ti-province teteleto. Ti ta pfuna ku vanhu va le ka ti-rurals minister va va na access ya ti-finances. Xin'wana lexi hi xi kombelaka eka ndzawulo i ku hi kombela ku minister eka monitoring and evaluation vekani vanhu lava nga skilled va swi tivaka ku loko va ku ka monitoriwa va vula yini, because it is quite disturbing ku SIDA loko yi endla ti-business plan the very same entity leyi nga na vuxaka na SIFA munhu a nga swi koti ku pfuneka hala ka SIFA. Se loko mi ta endla ku collaboration na coordination ya the two entities yi va in one roof and yi monitoriwa properly, at hiccups leti nga na tona ti ta pfuneka. Going forward, there needs to be continue focusing on improving monitoring and supporting programs for these small businesses. Since the dawn, the establishment of SIDA was done by merging three government entities, namely the Nsika Entrepreneur Promotion Agency, National Manufacturing Advisory Center, and Community Public-Private Partnership Programs. Leswi swi hi tsakisaka hi ku a ti ri scattered, but what is critical i ku va ti monitoriwa ku ti endla leswi ti targets ta n'wina leti mi ti lavisaka swona. A hi naveli ku hi ya vona the end of the financial year mali yi tlhela va ku a ka ha ri na mali. Nkarhi wa mina se wu dyiwe hi makondlo la ku vula leswaku vanhu va ka Ntimeni a va zanga va kota ku pfuneka ka swa timali. Loko a va pfunekile David Nzimba wa le Bushbuckridge a nga murimi a ta va a commercial farmer one day loko ku ri ku tindlela leti a ti boxeke khale, na Esther Mhlongo wa le Barberton loyi a nga a female farmer a ta kumeka a va a commercial farmer. Ha supporta e budget ya n'wina, vanghani va mina va ta rungula hi ti-challenges na swin'wana ti-priorities leti hi ti vekeke na khensa.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Mpele, you call to the podium.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. Ngibingelela ungqongqoshe nosekela ngqongqoshe amalunga kulendlu nabahlonishwa ekomiti. At the outset, Chairperson, I must make crystal clear from our side as the Democratic Alliance that any debate or discussion on small business developments must have as its premise and starting points that the #1 priority item on the agenda must be the achievement of job-creating economic growth at a significantly higher rate than the sluggish performance that we have experienced over the past decade. Anything less, anything else would be misdirected. We know that our biggest crisis in this country is stubbornly high and structural unemployment, which is acutely concentrated among young people, with youth unemployment reaching 55% at the end of the first quarter of 2019. Our country is plagued with the scourge of NEETs, referring to the millions of people not in employment, education, or training. The small business sector is crucial for addressing this problem, but it needs an enabling environment to realize its potential to contribute to economic growth, job creation, and skills development. The SMME sector is our best chance for advancing the ambition of job creation and skills development because the labor absorptive capacity of the small business sector is higher than that of other enterprise classes. The average capital cost of a job created in the SMME sector is lower than in the big business sector, and workers at the smaller end of the scale often require limited or no skills or training. Rather, they learn on the job, thus building their skills and gaining work experience. When it comes to local examples of successful small business, I always refer to the inspiring story of Sizwe Nzima and his chronic medication delivery bicycle courier enterprise, Iyeza Express. The story begins that while collecting medication for his grandparents at a local clinic, the then 21-year-old Sizwe realized that many homes in the poorer areas of Cape Town experienced the same problem, lacking a means of convenient transport, money, time, and energy to collect medicine from public health facilities. He also saw the need to aid local clinics and hospitals that were struggling to cope with a large increase in chronic patients. Founded in 2013 with just one customer, his own grandmother, the business went on to expand, delivering much needed medication to several thousand people in Khayelitsha, as well as creating unemployment opportunities for young people. A relevant question that arises from this story, which I would like the Minister to ponder as she undertakes her task of political leadership in this portfolio, is whether she believes that Mr. Nzima's enterprise, as it was growing, absorbing his peers as additional couriers, and thus creating jobs, was doing so at what is now the national minimum wage. Almost certainly not. More importantly, does she think that Iyeza Express would have been able to find its stride, build momentum, and establish itself as a value-adding, job-creating small enterprise if it had been constrained, hamstrung, and straitjacketed by the onerous burden of having to comply with the now national minimum wage? Absolutely not. Now, I know the minister might retort to say that allowance is made in the legislation for small business to apply for exemption from the national minimum wage, but that is not good enough. The exemption must be automatic and systemic. We must make it as easy as possible for SMMEs, especially emerging ones, to operate and strive for commercial sustainability rather than making red tape the default and expecting them to seek special dispensation at the discretion of a minister in order to have the best chance possible to run and grow their business. The government must simply be less interfering and allow SMMEs to operate freely in the markets, serving their customers in voluntary value exchanges. Along the same lines, the DA has long advocated for the exclusion of small and medium enterprises from collective bargaining agreements to which they are not direct signatories. Rather, we support a nuanced approach to bargaining agreements, which takes into account the unique conditions, markets, and products of businesses in different areas in the country. In their 2015 SME Growth Index annual study, Business Environment Specialists, SBP, analyzed the challenges that small businesses face in South Africa. They surveyed 500 established companies employing less than 50 people in manufacturing, business services, and tourism. The survey found that 40% of respondents identified burdensome regulations, and 32% pointed out the cost of labor as being factors that are constraining growth and which need to be addressed. Our labor regulations have created a situation where it is almost impossible to test out future employees to ascertain whether they will be profitable for the business. Thus, many business owners would rather not take the risk, opting to limit expanding their businesses, which means that job creation is hindered. Now, so far in her tenure and in this debate, the minister has shown herself to be a person of ideas, a person of drive, enthusiasm, and gusto in this portfolio. What we wait to see as the DA is whether her drive, enthusiasm, and gusto will translate into concrete political will to champion the needed reforms so that her ideas and that litany of promises and plans she read out can be translated into action. Minister, you mentioned the issue of government procurement from small business. A key role that you and your department can play in aid of small business is to ensure that in collaboration with your colleagues in cabinets, that other government departments do not undertake procurement processes or adopt policy positions that hinder or undermine the prospects of small business. An example of this, Chairperson, is Transversal Contract 2007/2015 of the State Information Technology Agency for the provision of printer consumables. According to complaints I have received from small business owners, this contract has meant that all government departments can only use preferred suppliers for the procurement of printer toner cartridges, thus rendering any prior registration on National Treasury's Central Supply Database entirely moot. The problem with this transversal contract is twofold. Firstly, the initiation of the contract was not adequately advertised, and thus potential suppliers were not given a fair opportunity to apply for the preferred suppliers list. This has dealt a severe blow to the cash flow of many small businesses who had previously been supplying departments, some for up to 20 years, to the extent that some have had to close their doors and others are starting to let go of their employees. This situation is a microcosm that provides a glimpse into the reason why our economy contracted and unemployment increased in the previous quarter. Secondly, the contract does not even entail special or discount pricing, which might have been justifiable grounds for its exclusive nature. Instead, I have been told that some of these preferred suppliers are charging a 30% profit margin above cost, while most small businesses would normally charge a profit margin of 10% or below. Even more egregious, Minister, it's alleged that 2 companies on this preferred supplier list are based in London, which completely undermines the call made by the President for the use of localized procurements to broaden and expand economic opportunity for local small enterprise. Furthermore, I am told that a new product approved by CISA last month could save government up to 30% on their toner orders, but those companies who are licensed to sell it can't offer it to government because of this contract, and the insider preferred suppliers cannot supply the new toner because they are not licensed to do so. As a result, the government is losing hundreds of thousands of rands in potential fiscal savings, with the excluded companies being able to quote 109,000 rand for a given quantity of toners, but the company that actually got the contracts quoted 165,000 rand. Talk about wasteful expenditure, all while the government is teetering at the edge of a fiscal cliff. I have submitted parliamentary questions to the office of Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams to get to the bottom of this matter, because it simply does not make sense. To paraphrase a saying, my olfactory senses detect the presence of a rodent. Another area where the minister's political will is to be tested is in the follow-up to and full consequent management flowing from the findings of the Auditor General's 2018 forensic investigation into irregularities in her department relating to fraud and corruption. Accountability enforcement has always been the systemic failure of successive ANC governments, owing to entrenched cronyism. So, again, we wait to see whether the so-called New Dawn will demonstrate a break from this or be more of the same. Author Bev Moody, in her book, Entrepreneurship Made Easy, writes, "We live in a time where jobs are no longer secure or abundant. We are increasingly called upon to be self-reliant, to take risks, and to generate our own income. I am a firm believer in the notion that every young person of whatever age, background, or education and skill level must be at least a part-time entrepreneur, running what the kids call these days a side hustle. Just as was the case with Sizwe Nzima and his Iyeza Express, every problem in society is a potential business opportunity, waiting for an entrepreneur to create a product or service that meets a need or fills a gap in the markets and thus creates value. The job of this department is to get behind and meaningfully support every South African who takes the chance and the risk to do just that. And furthermore, the minister and her department must ensure that other policies and legislation get out of the way of job-creating enterprises so that we can build this country and create one SA for all. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable T.M. Langa, invited to the podium.
Honorable Chairperson, our submission is that this department should have been reduced to the program within the new Department of Trade, Industry and Economic Development led by Chief Director. We don't need a minister, a deputy minister, and a Director General for a department that can exist as a program within an existing department. There's a benefit of saving more than 230 million rands immediately, which would otherwise be spent on salaries and procurement of goods and services by the department. The money can be directed to fund startups in manufacturing, agro-processing, and beneficiation of mineral resources. There was nothing which informed the creation of this department, separate from the industrial policy within the Department of Trade and Industry. The experience of countries where small businesses are successful, sustainable, and create jobs is when they are linked with manufacturing of things that local people consume, but also with the capacity to export. The advantage small businesses have in the era of big data is that they are flexible, which is key to manufacturing. Unlike in developed countries where manufacturing is about innovation and competitiveness, making contribution to the research and development, South Africa's small business must be a pathway to raising incomes and living standards for millions of South Africans who live in poverty. In other words, those that produce food must produce enough to sell to retail stores, but outside where they produce, they must sell to local people at a cheaper price. And all what small business need is support, Chairperson. A majority of small business who came to EFF consultative meetings in the process of developing our manifesto during the elections were not looking for a lot of money, Chairperson. Let's clean up funding, put it in one place where small businesses submit one application, appoint people who understand the role of small businesses, and a system must be developed from small businesses to submit one application, that the application is assessed by all other funding agencies in different spheres of government. In fact, many are not even looking for money, but are looking for government to buy their products because they are not considering as suppliers of many goods that government procure. In 2015, there was a promise that government will set aside 30% of appropriate categories of state procurement for purchasing from SMMEs, corporates, as well as townships and rural enterprises, rather. This promise was repeated again in the ruling party manifesto during elections. Yeah, April. Let's agree when the EFF...
Members, order.
Let's all agree, when the EFF table a private member bill to amend the PFMA and the MFMA to ensure that a minimum of 80% of goods and services procured by the state at all levels, including state-owned entities, we must include a section which says 50% must come from small businesses and owned by black people, women in particular. We must also legislate that all big corporates and companies must source their key industrial inputs from the SMMEs. BMW plant in Rosalind producing BMW X3 must source rubber material, bulbs, and other key industrial inputs from SMMEs in and around Rosalind and Soshanguve. We must also build the state-owned trading and the retail platforms in most parts of communities, because while many small businesses are able to produce their goods, they cannot get their products into shelves. There's a problem we must address in major central business districts, CBDs, especially in Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, and PE. The city policy goes around taking informal traders' goods and harass them. Many of the informal traders enter into sector because it is between that and an empty stomach. So it is unacceptable and must be condemned. It is Eurocentric, racist, and self-hate. It cannot be a municipal by law to not want people to trade. People must trade in Braamfontein, Sandton, Sea Point, Umhlanga, and Summerstrand in PE as long as they are not committing crime. But also, there's a large pool of young people in the townships who are unemployed but are looking for work, and majority are not highly qualified. Township must be the sites of industrialization where people are producing goods on a daily basis. To make this a practical solution, we must declare all overcrowded townships in South Africa a special tax-free economic zones if an investor can guarantee 2,000 jobs. Such investment will come with more. It will come with demand for manufacturing and service input, and this will in turn stimulate small business. But it is neither the political will or competence to turn such a potential that exists in South Africa into thriving small business and entrepreneurs. Therefore, Chairperson, with all that I've submitted before the House, the Economic Freedom Fighters reject the proposed budget policy.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Msimang. Order, honourable members.
Honorable Chairperson, poverty in South Africa has declined since the dawn of our new democracy, but inequality remains a very widening and ever-widening abyss. This, coupled together with
honourable members.
a weak economy, translates into a growth-restrictive environment which small business in South Africa must overcome. The IFP finds it very disconcerting that this department, which was established in 2014, is still preoccupied with making plans when one would expect it to be implementing plans. The President himself said that the time for rhetoric is over in his SONA address, so it can only be seen as an embarrassment that the organizational structure of this department remains to be yet approved. Chairperson, the creation of jobs, especially in respect of our youth, is crucial if we wish to overcome the legacy of exclusion and build a stronger and more cohesive social contract. SMMEs are critical, and I may even go so far as to say can play a definitive role in this respect, subject, of course, to certain other requirements being met, such as corrective action being taken to remedy the skills gap that is currently so prevalent in our potential labor force. Skills not only raise the productivity of our workers and entrepreneurs, but also promote business expansion and scalability of production, which in turn creates more jobs. However, our SMMEs continue to be excluded by barriers such as access to finance. Although some financial support is in place by government, it remains heavily fragmented, which undermines the applicability and effectiveness of these. This must be addressed. Chairperson, our rural economies are where we should be concentrating with SMME development. Agriculture, agribusiness, and agritourism models must receive further impetus as despite widespread urban migration, our rural areas remain areas in which the majority of this country's poor will be found. Although agriculture accounts for a small percentage of GDP, it still can provide an income and, more importantly, feed families, thus promoting greater food security. Currently, we still see skewed agricultural production landscape with large commercial farmers all but dominating the marketplace. This must change if we are to have any hope of realizing even the 2 million jobs alluded to by the President in 2030, let alone the pipe dream of 11 million jobs contained in the National Development Plan. When this department was launched in 2014, the unemployment rate was sitting at 25.5%. Today, we are at 27.6%. These figures speak for themselves, as well as the lackluster performance of our economy. In summation, the IFP welcomes the SONA statement by the President that CEDA must be positioned as a lead incubator in South Africa with a focus on emerging Black entrepreneurs in our townships and rural areas. It is additionally imperative that IT form a part of such service, as the fourth industrial revolution is upon us, and IT skills will prove critical to all commercial activities. The IFP supports small business. We support getting South Africa working. The pillars of self-help and self-reliance
Thank you, Honourable Member.
underpin our policies, and in that spirit, the IFP will support the budget. Thank you.
Honourable Groenewald, you invited to the podium, sir.
Die president van die Reservebank het gesê werksgeleenthede is die gevolg van ekonomiese groei.
Honourable members.
Daar is nie 'n enkele ekonomie in die wêreld wat werksgeleenthede kan skep as dit groei nie. Werkskeping is die gevolg van ekonomiese aktiwiteite wat met groei kom. Honourable Chairperson, small and medium businesses is the backbone to any country economy and is one sector that can create employment. But the responsibility lies with the department and the government to create favourable environments so that they may prosper. The biggest challenge for small and medium business is not funding, but a shortage of prosperous environment and economy so that this sector can do what they do best, and that is to build, create, and contribute to a viable future with opportunities in South Africa, especially for the youth of South Africa that is in dire need of a better solution that our current situation is. Agbare voorsitter, die regering kan nie sakeondernemings vestig nie, maar kan slegs 'n klimaat skep waarin sakeondernemings gestig word deur gewillige entrepreneurs wat bereid is om die risiko's te neem. mits daar 'n omgewing is waarin hulle suksesvol kan wees. Dis waar die regering so min as moontlik inmeng, maar deur gesonde, vrye markinisiatiewe. Daarom, voorsitter, is dit noodsaaklik dat die departement in die beste belang van klein tot medium sakeondernemings optree en bande smee met die mededingingskommissie om alle onregverdige manipuleer te stuit wat klein en medium sakeondernemings strem. Verder is dit noodsaaklik dat die departement die kampioen word van die veldtog Trots Suid-Afrikaans, sodat die verbruiker plaaslike produkte moet koop wat ook sal bydra tot die groei van Suid-Afrika se ekonomie. Honorable Chairperson, there must be an investigation into tender system. The tender system of government is not in favor of small and medium businesses, where small and medium businesses can't participate in such system. Small and medium enterprises do not have the capacity to do business with the government, as government in most cases only settle accounts after 90 to 120 days. Furthermore, do the tender entrepreneurs who lead with political ties get awarded tenders and sometimes higher than competitive prices so that the corrupt can be paid, and for that reason, your honest, hard-working enterprises gets excluded in the current tender system. Small and medium enterprises as subcontractors must also be protected from companies that make use of their services but neglect payment to such extent that small and medium businesses get liquidated at great rates, and more so with the added economical pressure of the current economy. Agbare voorsitter, die term regering is 'n kollektiewe term, en is dit die rede daarvoor dat alle departemente saam die regering is en een doel moet hê. En dit is om namens sy burgers die beste moontlike oplossing te kry vir die probleme. Klein en medium besighede verwag dat alle departemente moet saamwerk om 'n omgewing te skep waarin hulle volhoubaar kan bestaan. Plaaslike regering moet verseker dat die wil nie verby die voordeur van 'n besigheid moet loop nie.
Can you take a seat? Honourable member, why are you rising?
It's my point of order. Now, why are you...
Honourable member, you better address me.
Chairperson,
Yeah, why are you rising, sir?
we've been trying to search for the vernacular languages here, and we have 11 official languages. We seem not to get any, especially when the Honourable switches to Afrikaans.
Okay, thank you. We'll request front desk to look at it. Please call the IT people to look at it. Thank you. Can go ahead, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Chair. At least we know the Constitution. Plaaslike regering moet verseker dat die wil nie verby die voordeur van die besigheid moet loop nie, maar dat die dienste gelewer moet word waar betaal word. Die agbare minister moet in gesprek tree met alle ander ministers om kragte saam te span om 'n omgewing vir klein en medium sakeondernemings te verbeter waar volhoubare elektrisiteit verskaf kan word en goeie infrastrukture. Daadwerklike optrede teen staking wat elke dag meer krimineel raak en die ekonomie weerhou om te groei en produkte nie gelewer word weens die toemaak van toegangsroetes en so die ekonomiese aard afsny en veroorsaak dat klein sakeondernemings groot verliese ly, soos wat tans gebeur in Ottosdal. The Honourable Minister must ensure the unnecessary red tape and legislation processes be removed. Let small and medium enterprises do what they do best and remove affirmative action, broad-based black economic empowerment as the two laws that cripple merit in such businesses. Let government not be part of the problem, but let us ensure contribution to a sustainable solution. A solution where business can strive in a well-maintained environment. Let us help them become the heroes of South Africa economy. Let us allow them to be the best at what they do and save South Africa by creating job opportunities. We salute those small and medium enterprises that are still willing to take risk in this crippled South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Do you support the...
isiZulu sikhona laphana kwa-Channel 3. Honourable members, we invite the Honourable Deputy Minister of Small Business Development.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair, honorable members, the Honorable Minister of Small Business Development, Honorable Gumuzo, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, as well as the Whip, honorable members, our guests in the gallery, of who have come from various provinces to be with us today, so that they can share and they can know what we're talking about. I also want to acknowledge specifically the presence of the Regent King of Abatembu, Ukumkani Uazinati Dalinge. I do so because we do know that he is the grandson of the late Comrade King Sabata Dalindyebo, who actually died in exile in Zambia for this liberation to achieve the democracy we have today. You are very welcome, Mthembu Mkhulu. I would also want to state that all those who are seated there have been invited because of the importance of their participation in this particular journey that our president has made a clarion call to say, let us all grow South Africa together. So they are not only there, they are there also to take our message to our villages, to our townships, to our cities, to our provinces to say, ixesha lifikile, masiqale. Sixelelwe ke ngumongameli ukuba masikhawuleze kuba sithunyiwe. Silapha ke ngokuba sizokhawuleza. Honorable Chair, uMinister ucacise kakhulu wayihlaba ifolo ukuba sizawuhamba ndawoni senze ntoni. Okwethu kukungqina. Kukho ababuzayo uba sizawuqala na. Mandiphawule kula gallery. Kukwakhona utata uReverend Mapho usuka eKlerksdorp. Yena une program angancediswanga ngayo ngurhulumente. Apho communities themselves zizama ukususa to actually reclaim their markets from foreign nationals. What they do, they have community structures where they make their own outlets. Because all the land has been taken when we were actually being dispossessed. Now those women, men and women, actually are renovating the old beer halls because someone thought ours was to drink up to death. So they began to go into our villages, into our township, to build beer halls in order to destroy our future and to use it as an opium for the poor. It is today that those men and women are engaged actually in ensuring that they take their markets, even if the space is limited. They are doing best, Honorable Minister, and I've just visited 10 of those outlets where themselves as a community, they sit and even elect who is going to be employed and why from the local. They also buy their local produce, put it in their outlet, and then buy it. Every child that buys a sweet, there's a little amount that goes into the trust so that they can regenerate and multiply these open markets for our people. And we will continue to actually support, but also to make it clear that they are not there to loot. Because some people think that black people are inherently corrupt and are looking for opportunities to loot. But what I can tell you, they have a company that is known for its audit record to actually manage their books so that they know how much was a profit and how much is going to go to the community trust account. I also has been able, Honorable Chair, to visit Gata Group, Gauteng Taxi Association in Guruleni. They were actually opening a day when they themselves, as a taxi group, have actually got into the franchise of Deponers. They own in that shopping complex Deponers, Steers, and Nando's. And they are saying, Honorable Minister, they would be happy to actually get further to own filling stations because it's them who are using that particular commodity. They also want to be involved in wheel making, spares, etc. And they are actually saying the sooner they own the ranks in our taxi ranks in our local municipalities and smaller Nyana towns, they can be able to have a safety for those who are on transit. They are actual members who are actually going to do long distance. They can have a space to sleep so that they are compelled to rest and be fresh and ready for the next journey back to transport our people. And we are so much appreciating that our people are not waiting for us. Someone is saying, are you still starting? Siyaqala, siqhubeka nabo. Okwesibini, sifuna ukubancedisa, not actually ukuba sibaqalele. So, asingo Father Christmas. Ukhona umntu apha othi wonke umntu makabe uyancedwa. Those people are all our clients, be it small business, be it informal, be it community needing to come as a trust, to come as a co-op, community co-ops, because cooperatives throughout the world are able to mobilize the very communities to actually grow their country. So our president is very clear. The clarion call goes to all of us in here, irrespective of political affiliation. The president is saying, let us all, and I want to emphasize all, join hands and grow South Africa and stop the red pens of criticizing every moment, every minute, every program, even if it has not been started yet. Some of us, some people can even deny because they are in opposition. If you say your name is Minister Kumutsu, you can say, no, I'm not, because it's being said by an opponent. Ungaphikisa noba intoni na. Ndifuna phambi kwakho sihlalo.
Sorry, just hold. Honorable members on the gallery, please don't take photos. Please. As much as we welcome you here we like you to be around, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to profusely apologize to the women of Chakuma in Lipombo because they were promised a market that would be constructed by this department. That did not materialize because there were so many hands that were seeking to help them. And there was no proper coordination to know what the left hand or the right hand is doing. We are assuring you that the minister has taken this very serious, and the president also made a note of your plight. And probably when we do it this time, we know that there might be changes in your plan. Your original plan, women of South Africa, mothers of our nation, you only requested smaller nyana shelters, but it might be a more up-to-date market, which will
Thank you very
also
much,
allow you to be
Honorable
able
Deputy
to
Minister.
continue.
Thank
My
you
time
very
is
much.
up.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Nawubabhalela bantu abakwethu.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Reference, Mishwe.
House Chairperson, according to the National Development Plan, by 2030, 90% of jobs in South Africa should be produced by the Department of Small Business and Development. This economy in South Africa should not be driven by big business, but it should be driven by small, micro, and medium enterprises. But sadly, this is currently not happening. This department has failed to live up to expectation and to carry out its core mandate. I hope this will change because we now have a new minister who will turn things around. There is a trail of new entrepreneurs who have been devastated and defrauded by officials who were employed to assist them. During oversight visits to different communities in rural and urban areas, the committee of the Fifth Parliament heard many heartbreaking stories of betrayal, fraud, and corruption by officials from the department. People who were entrusted with the responsibility of providing services to our people were the very ones who made vulnerable ladies sign documents with no understanding of what they were getting themselves into, only to be told later how much money they owed banks for materials they never received because of corruption. The ACDP is relieved that finally, after years of complaining by the Auditor General and the Small Business Development Portfolio Committee members, in March this year, 9 officials from this department were suspended. We are now waiting to see how many of them will be convicted and after criminal charges are laid against them. Chairperson, the ACDP is very concerned also that the majority of spaza shops in most townships and villages have been taken over by foreign nationals. When some committee members asked questions about how these businesses could be thriving within months and who was funding them, there were no answers. It is suspicious that many of these shops that are well stocked are able to sell their goods at a far cheaper rate than many locals, and they are still continuing. The department is failing to assist local spaza shop owners to be more competitive, and the ACDP would like to see that happening, Minister. In 2016, the ACDP welcomed an announcement by former President Jacob Zuma that 10 billion rands would be established to help stimulate economic growth through the empowerment of small business operators. We said that if the fund was invested wisely in viable SMMEs, it would help create many job opportunities for the unemployed, particularly among the youth. We believe, Chairperson, that small business is a catalyst for economic growth and should play a far more significant role in job creation and poverty alleviation. The ACDP believes that a culture of entrepreneurship should be inculcated in our children from an early age as we prepare for the future. We agree with those who are calling for the introduction of entrepreneurship studies from basic school level to tertiary education, because there is a direct link between education and entrepreneurship activities. Our people need proper skills and training to become employable. We are hoping to raise a new generation of students who will think of what kind of business to start and not where am I going to apply for a job. And education can prepare them for that so that they know that they themselves can be able to start jobs. So as I finish, Minister, I wish you well and trust that you'll be able to turn this important department around so that our people will get jobs.
Honorable Minister, time is up. Honorable Zungula.
Chairperson of the House, Honorable Minister, as well as all honorable members of the House. The first thing that you want to say is to congratulate the Minister for her appointment. And we believe that as a young woman, many business owners in the country are having a lot of hope in you. Now, what are the facts in the country in relation to the state of our businesses? We have a government that continues to give expensive incentives to big businesses who in turn retrench workers. The retrenchments are up by 27% in 2018 in the second quarter. If we have a government that is serious about job creation, then definitely supporting SMMEs must be a top priority. We must have the government must only issue licenses to only companies that have a small business preference. We cannot have a government that gives licenses to companies that are not willing to support small businesses. Also, this Department of Small Business Development must lead the government in terms of the advocating for pro-small business legislation. This includes the repealing of PPPFA, PFMA, because we can't have the companies, the small business companies, competing against big businesses when it comes to getting business from the government if price is the only indicator. It is criminal for one company to have more than 1,000 contracts with the government. Therefore, the likes of Bidvest, and we've seen with Ubosasa how if one company has got a monopoly over the contracts with government, that in turn leads to corruption. Again, it is unacceptable to have a small town with 96% of businesses owned by foreign nationals. This is the case in Tsofimvaba. It is the case in Lipalale. It is the case in Komaz. We need to have a township, rural, and inner city economy which is patriotic and is protected for the citizens of the country, because we want mass participation of locals in the economy. If a person goes to Rwanda, they go to Nigeria, they go to Ghana, they'll find there that each and every company that is there in the microeconomic space is for the exclusive use of the locals. But if you come to South Africa, you find that the microeconomic space is dominated by foreign nationals. It is unacceptable that a person from Turkey can come to South Africa, register businesses, but a South African, when they need to go to Turkey to register businesses, they need a Turkish national. We need a patriotic microeconomy that is for the exclusive use of South Africans. It is time for us as this department to put South Africa first. As ATM, we support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable April.
Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, Honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. The ANC supports the Budget Vote 31 of small business development. This support is unconditional as it demonstrates our resolve and confidence in small business development department and its ecosystem partners to continue to drive our economic transformation and empowerment agenda in order to rid this country of the legacies of apartheid. It is common cause that government has acknowledged that although it is widely accepted that SMMEs are key drivers for job creation, poverty alleviation, and eradicating inequality, Most of them do not possess the requisite experience, skills, and scale to survive in South Africa's competitive business environment. The recently released Stats South Africa Quarterly Labor Report says that between the people between the ages of 15 and 34 are highly unemployed. It is obviously concerning that young people who are looking and willing to work cannot find employment. The ANC, as the ANC, we have placed youth empowerment at the center of our job creation agenda. We are also mindful that, in fact, that some of our young people are entrepreneurial and enterprising in nature, and they have openly expressed their commitment to be part of the solution by creating jobs and growing the economy. The young people of our country have outlined their aspirations in the National Youth Policy 2015 to 2020, in which they said, in a preamble, we are not looking for handouts, we are looking for a hand up. In order to deal with youth unemployment, we need a multi-pronged approach which addresses the foundational issue of health and education, whilst cultivating a culture of entrepreneurship and disrupting innovation in the fourth industrial revolution era. We must create jobs for our youth, but also we must provide the necessary support, both financially and non-financially. To youth entrepreneurship, this is where the Small Business Development Department, through the agencies SEDA and CIFA, as well as other agencies like NIDA, according to several global entrepreneurial research, we have learned that the ecosystem needs to work together in order for our young people to find valuable gain out of the ecosystem. We must understand that in South Africa, it is critical that our schooling is producing to the labor market every year, but there is not enough jobs to take on all of our entrepreneurs. It is therefore then incumbent upon ourselves to ensure that we boost entrepreneurship that will in turn create millions of jobs. The lack of relationships between our between our finance institutions that are unresponsive, risk-averse, and lack innovation to stimulate entrepreneurship that is sensitive to our formal and informal economy. We do know that a black child does not inherently have the capital that is left by a rich father that he can use in a local bank in order to finance him to start a business. These kind of things forces us as government to work together to ensure that we mitigate these risk factors and empower the black child in order to become an entrepreneur, and not just one, a successful entrepreneur. There is an adage that says that in order to move forward, you have to look back. For the past financial year, CIFA has disbursed funds to various township-based entities spread across the country in a bid to help government to revitalize the township economy. It has doubled its efforts by a meaningful presence in both township and the informal settlements. It has approved 446 million in loan financing and SMME and cooperatives. And in the past 5 years, CIFA has disbursed 4.3 billion. In the last financial year, CIFA has assisted over 45,000 small businesses and cooperatives, creating 54,000 jobs in the informal and formal. Come on, yes. EFF, did you hear that? The increase in geographic spread of SEDA's centers will address the challenge of high demand for its services by many South African entrepreneurs. This budget that we are supporting today, for a small business, this budget that we are supporting today is nothing lack of a commitment made by the African National Congress to ensure that we place at the center young people and people in the informal economy. It is important to note that the informal economy is run by this gogo who's sitting every morning at the station selling fat cooks. It is run by this young man who takes on his back a bag of sweets to sell at school. These are entrepreneurs that we need to take note of and need to take care of. These are the kind of entrepreneurs that we want to see supported by our departments. In conclusion, we acknowledge that while the informal sector in South Africa compared to our developing countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, is the role as a source of employment for and livelihoods, it must be properly appreciated. Moreover, the sector is not homogeneous. It is important that we put structures in place to bring some hegemony in the sector. Owners and employers of enterprises across the size spectrum take risk, face many barriers and struggle to be viable, with severe consequences of failure to involved households. Did you know that it is so that the informal sector created even more jobs than the mining sector in the last financial year? The informal sector is the one that I spoke about, that gogo that is baking magonias and sitting at a station, that ones who are forced many times to do these entrepreneurs are the ones that we are going to be focusing on. More than 2 million jobs has been created by them. No red pants can argue that. No, as a portfolio committee on small business development, we will play our oversight role and ensure that we don't speak one thing at night and another thing in the morning like others who are screaming that they are pro entrepreneurship and pro work, but they have done little to come and support budgets. We support the budget as it is laid out.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Tlhomela.
House Chair, Minister of Small Business Development, Honorable Kumbuzo Nchaveni, and the Deputy Minister, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, and the Honorable Members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Bakhaithu Dumela.
Honorable members.
Our country and the people of the world will be celebrating.
Sorry. Honorable members, you may speak, but you are speaking as if you are outside. Could you reduce your voice, please?
Our country and the people of the world will be celebrating the birth of the global icon, President Nelson Mandela, on the 18th July as part of Mandela Day celebrations. In his first State of the Nation address in this House in 1994, President Mandela said that, I quote, "Freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression." Kgololosego e Ntate Mandela a neng a bua ka yone batlhami ba botlhe ke kgololosego ya bomme, kgololosego ya bong, kgololosego ya kgatelelesego, kgololosego ya lehuma le tlala, kgololosego ya go sa lekalekaneng, kgololosego ya go sa akarediwe mo ikonoming jaaka bomme. President Ramaphosa in the State of the Nation address committed that within the next 10 years we will have made progress in tackling poverty, inequality and unemployment, where among other things our economy will grow at a much faster rate than our population, and that 2 million young people will be in employment. For our part as the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, we will ensure that we advance the policies of the ANC on the development and support of the SMMEs and cooperatives. And we will ensure that the Department of Small Businesses Development move faster in addressing challenges faced by SMMEs and cooperatives. The cooperative sector started with the establishment with the predominantly white agricultural cooperatives aimed at developing and building the white farming community. These cooperatives eventually developed into powerful business ventures, which control agricultural production, marketing, and processing in rural areas, whilst black-owned agricultural cooperatives did not enjoy the same support from the state. They remained weak and undeveloped, with most eventually collapsing. Black people, however, have always had their own cooperatives in the form of stokvels, burial societies, among others, which played a key role in poverty alleviation during the apartheid. The White Paper on National Strategy for the Development and Promotion of Small Business identified cooperatives as the key enterprises that should be fully recognized as legal entities through appropriate legislation. In 2004, government launched its first cooperative development policy, which covered all types of sectors beyond the traditional agriculture sector. This enabled black-owned cooperatives began establishing themselves in different sectors of the economy, such as manufacturing, construction, transport, and information technology. Fast forward. As you know, our government has adopted the National Development Plan Vision for our country 2030, and that our medium-term strategy framework is aligned to the NDP. The NDP recognizes the country's long tradition of stokvels and knows that the cooperative are a vehicle of empowerment for women, workers, the youth, people with disability, and people in rural areas. The cooperative sector had not been without challenges. Some of the challenges include poor coordination between government entities and other spheres of public sector, inaccessibilities of cooperatives and local communities. Cooperatives themselves are sometimes not formed on a union basis. They tend to be established for the purpose of accessing money. For the purpose of accessing money instead of genuinely building a cooperative. And lack of skills has also been identified as a challenge also. Some of the challenges identified result with the double dipping as a cooperative can apply and benefit from different government departments and entities. This can only be addressed if proper coordination is maintained within government, as the minister and the deputy minister have already alluded to that. We also urge government in general and the Department of Small Business Development in particular to take proactive steps in providing support to cooperatives which are currently operating, to formalize them and capacitate them. Ka puo ya gaetsho ra re mokodu o go tsusiwa o itekang. Ra re priority should be given to cooperative and small businesses in the rural areas. Ko metsemagaeng ditorotso le ditorotšwana, VTST. We acknowledge the achievements recorded by the department in past, which includes obtained unqualified audit outcome for 3 consecutive years. We applaud the success of the Kopano Disabled Cooperative from Limpopo, which won the Best Cooperative Excellence Award in South Africa in 2017. Not only in agricultural sector, but also in manufacturing, construction, retail, and service industry. The success of Kopano Disabled Cooperative should inspire us to do more in supporting cooperative, especially for disabled people. Initiated the Enterprise Incubation Program in 2015-2016. It aims also at growing SMEs and cooperative with access to a market opportunity. By the end of 2017-18 financial year, 55% of these incubators were showing growth. Since 2014 to March 2018, 762 cooperatives have been supported with a total grant amount of over 240 million. For the 2017-2018 financial year, the CEDA Cooperatives and Community Public Partnership Program provided non-financial support to 217 cooperatives who had a total membership of 39. More still needs work to be done. Re a dumalana gore Roma ga a tloa ka letsatsi re le rosi. Mme mmogo re ka kgona go itlhelela tse tsotlhe ka gore sedika ke ntša pedi ga se thata. As the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, we believe that the department will build from the success it has recorded and lessons learned from the challenges it experienced in the past years, and effectively and efficiently utilize this budget to address these challenges and address and develop SMEs and cooperatives in our country. The ANC support the budget vote 31 of the Department of Small Business Development.
Honorable Jacobs.
House Chair, fellow members of Parliament, distinguished guests, people of South Africa, I greet you all. Since 1994 to date, all election manifestos of the ANC has as the key strategic pillar the transformation of our economy, to create jobs, address unemployment, inequality, and poverty. The creation of jobs is a product of shared and inclusive economic growth. This remains the ANC's key pillar. As the Portfolio Committee, we have a constitutional obligation to play an oversight role in the Department of Small Business to ensure that the department delivers. We are particularly excited at the pronouncements made by our minister. Blended finance model will give us a new opportunity to mix the creation of funded and also created opportunities. We support and we're very excited at the 100,000 youth entrepreneurs and all of them creating additional 10 jobs each. We're also very excited with the extension of the incubation period of 5 years. Minister, we're particularly pleased about the partnership that is being created in the digital hub, and we're also particularly pleased with our commitment to make local government also work and make it easy for procurement and the registration of cooperatives. We welcome all of these initiatives, Minister. We also welcome the undertaking by the department that it will expand incubation centers to 44 districts, 88 metros to support village and township enterprise, and extension the incubation period. We believe this will go a long way in encouraging entrepreneurship in rural economies and support small businesses, both in the informal and the informal economy. I want to respond to some of the comments made by the made by the opposition. I think our fight for job creation is not about exploitation. So we encourage small businesses, but small businesses must not be sweatshops. It must create decent work environment for our people. Therefore, we create an environment that small business must be part of an enabling framework. As Portfolio Committee, we have called on the Auditor General and the department to respond to the 5th Administration Legacy Report. We believe, as the ANC, that we will commit to clean governance, and the challenges created in the report must be addressed. We call on big business to make small business their priority. We are encouraged that the Competition Amendment Act that was signed by the President will help us address the uncompetitive behavior by big business. The department intends through the budget to assist 2,360 SMMEs in black Business Supplier Development Program. It also seeks to provide financial and non-financial support, infrastructure support, services to informal sectors, with 5,612 small enterprises expected to benefit. As the chair alluded to, the one-stop shop will ensure accessibility of CEDA and CIFA to all entrepreneurs. These one-stop shops must be rolled out to rural areas in order to achieve broad geographical space. We are saying we're saying small business is everybody's business. We're saying, Kauleza Minister, let's deliver, let's make South Africa work. The African National Congress supports Budget Vote 31 of the department. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Member Order. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson and honorable members. Indeed, Chairperson Rashid, and itafunana naba David Nzima, naba Esther Mhlongo, we say masheni business tabo, because bafana ba kuma support kahina, or ba kota ba the commercial farmers 99 bashulabak. Honorable Mbele, the focus on achieving job creation
Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, I can't listen to all of you when you make point of order, because I've warned you, don't make a lot of noise. You may speak, but don't even interact the way you are interacting. I don't want to mention your name because I'm still respecting you, Continue, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. We accept that the best chance of our country to absorb jobs is through SMMEs. And indeed, Sizwe Nzima would be successful with government support. But we agree, small businesses cannot be sweatshops. There are exemptions that are available, and it's our responsibility as the department and the various agencies to make sure that SMMEs access the benefits and exemptions that are available to them with ease. That's why we've spoken about the ease of doing business for SMMEs and all small businesses. And we don't subscribe to the view that government must be less interfering, because the playing field is not equal. The playing field will enable a few at the expense of the many. And our responsibility is to level that playing field for our people to have access to the opportunities. And indeed, our commitment is to translate our plans into actions, and we'll come back and report to you on what we have done, what we have succeeded or achieved so far. And we continue to commit to accept to be held accountable by this House and the Portfolio Committee in the execution of our duties. But I must remind you, we are still on budget vote 31, not the budget vote on telecommunications. There will be consequence management. But when the Auditor General has tabled a report, we will come to the Portfolio Committee and announce an account. Our responsibility, like we've indicated, is not only about the priorities of the 6th administration, it's to conclude the work that is outstanding from the 5th administration, and we take full responsibility for that work. And we must inform you, we are the one that may open the criminal case against the officials that are already charged in March, which are simultaneous with the disciplinary case that is on point. Honorable Langa, maybe you should take guidance from the CIC who said, is the ANC that has won election and is the ANC that says government? When you win election, you then determine which departments are there. And it is also important not to concentrate on one speech and to listen to what other people are saying. We have mentioned that we want seamless access for SMMEs. We have spoken about common templates and announced that from now on, CEDA will use the templates from NEF and CIFA to make sure that SMMEs can access the funding equally from NEF. But we have also announced that we're working with the Land Bank, IDC, and other government agencies to develop common templates so that irrespective of the fact that we are responsible for CIFA and CEDA, SMMEs can apply in any DFI with that template without duplication, because it will make them more agile and more responsive. We have also said we are going to work with, to encourage the private banks to use the same templates. Maybe the problem is that we spoke about templates, we didn't talk about application forms. From the corners of people who are saying they want to support small businesses and small enterprise development, and for you not to support the budget is very rich. And by the way, we spoke about streets being not only public spaces, but centers for economic spaces for our people and for them to earn their livelihoods. And it's for that reason we have said we want to work with SALGA and the Department of Cooperative Governance to make sure that their bylaws are receptive to the informal traders and SMMEs in their very environments. Honorable Msimang, thank you for the support of the IFP in the budget vote. We are making only 2 issues on the acts. The first act is the Small Business Development Act that we need to amend to make it more responsive to remove some of the red tapes that affects the SMMEs and informal traders, because with that enabling legislation will not go far. Secondly, the other one we want to do is a bill on SMME ombudsman services. Our SMMEs are being bullied by big business, including government, and throttled out of business because of expensive legal cases. The SMMEs ombudsman service will enable us to have a framework that allows a dispute resolution mechanism that is cost-effective and friendly and supportive to SMMEs. Indeed, our president announced our focus on rural areas and townships, and we have alluded to exact programs and plans and interventions we're going to do to support rural and township enterprises. And the 2 million jobs are not a dream, they are a dream that will become a lived reality of our people, because we have just announced that 100,000 young entrepreneurs will be funded so that they create 1 million jobs. And we'll come back and report to you, and we're going to tell you at what phases. Honorable Groenewald, I'm sorry you were disrupted in your maiden speech, but creating enabling environment for our SMEs is our priority. And we stand before you to say, hold us accountable when we're not achieving that, but also work with us to point us the gaps that are there so that we can get our act together, because this is ours. We are with you on Proudly South African and on buying local. I've mentioned that we have been dressed here. We continue to make sure that we make interventions to encourage buying local. We have committed to put technical expertise to deal with issues of quality and scale for SMEs. We have announced that we are working with big business to talk about the lines that must be available in their own value chains, in their own shelves, and in their own markets for SMEs to be there. We are going to embark on an intensive marketing program to promote South African made goods. And we have clarified the previous time that South African buying local does not mean buying Louis Vuitton from a store in Sandton or in the V&A waterfront. It means that which is made in South Africa. Indeed, the tender system is not favorable. We have announced that we are engaging with the Minister of Finance on some of the few issues that we mentioned is the cost of the bid document itself, the requirement for compulsory briefing sessions, even when it's a bid for a toilet paper. Who needs to be briefed compulsorily on a toilet paper? Because a specification is common. And we use the example of a toilet paper because all of us know what we do with a toilet paper. And the president has explained that we cannot remove affirmative action because it has taken more than 300 years to make these conditions of our country unequal. It cannot, 25 years and 30 years is not enough. The affirmative action that will remove itself when the playing field is level, not only for our children, but for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. Because all of our children are South Africans, and they must feel that they are South African and equal, not only before the law, but also equal in fact. It must be a lived reality and not a legislated reality. Deputy Minister, I think you have done me injustice by not informing me that His Excellency Kumkan Azenati Dlalindlebo is here. But I must declare to the House that when we announced our trade market in Umtata, in partnership with the provincial government of the Eastern Cape, we were not influenced by his presence. It was because the people of Umtata, in line with our focus on rural areas and townships, deserve a trade market. And for His Majesty, I'm proud to announce that our contribution as the department is on the KSD market for home industries, and will Bafumakadzi ba market wa Chakuma rikhongo wa talushedza uri ṅwaha uno a vha nga ḓo wana market wavho nga uri Sanral yene vha tshipiḓa tsha muvhuso wa South Africa vha khou uyo engedza bada ya Phunda Maria Road. Ro amba no kwamana na vha Sanral na vha Makhado municipality na Vhembe district municipality uri kha dzi plane dzavho dza u shandukisa bada ya Phunda Maria Road vha tshi engedza vha include kana vha dzhenise market wa Chakuma, ngori a ri ṱoḓi vhathu vha market wa Chakuma vha tshi vheiwa nnḓa ha bada, vha funa u vheiwa hune ha vha hone ngauri bada ndi tshipiḓa tsha business area yavho. So ri tshi ita market wa Chakuma sa zwe DM vhamba u ḓo vha u market muhulwane, u ḓo vha u market vhane vha ḓo dzhiela vha ḓo ḓiṱongisa ngawo, u ḓo vha u market wa maimo une na vhone vhane vha ḓo ḓi rwa khana ngauri ri ḓo delivera Chakuma. Honorable Mishwe, in his absence, we are happy for the support, and we commit that we are going to work with yourselves and all sectors of civil society to address the injustice that our informal traders face in our communities. We have announced that we're going to do a register for informal traders so that we can, those who comply with the law and are permitted to transact in our country and trade in our country, they will trade. What we are going to not allow is everybody doing what they please. It's not a banana republic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members. Thank you, honorable members. I'm challenging all of you in this house. We've got 13 languages. Sometimes we stuck about these things of translating. I'm challenging you, just learn 2 of those languages. And this sitting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much.